Hey, Trey here from Innovative Sportsman. Today I'm here with one of our Osprey inflatable kayaks. We specialize in inflatable kayaks, making riggable and fishable fishing kayaks out of inflatable materials such as the drop stitch floor, and our kayaks are 3-chambered, so you have the side sponsons on either side with a drop stitch floor. So they're rigid, they're durable, and they can be pretty much put through anything. Today we're going to go through showing how to set up a kayak. This is a kayak for a customer that is, it'll show you what the process is going through here in the shop before we actually ship the kayak. We assemble every kayak before they leave the shop. With inflatables, you have variations with the material, the temperature and everything. So each one is a little bit different. So we make sure that all of the parts fit like they should before it actually leaves the shop. And then when we're finished with the video, you will have a guide. If you decide to purchase one yourself, that you will have a guide on how to put it together, install everything the proper way, so that it leaves no questions at the end of the day. So the first thing that sets the Osprey inflatable kayak apart from other inflatable kayaks is we use a 4-sided extrusion. If you can look in the end there, you'll see that there are little grooves right here on the ears, and that makes this, with the gap, a top loading extrusion. So what that means is you can take your accessories. This happens to be a Yak Attack accessory. You can take them, put them in on an angle, slide them down inside and load them from the top, and then you tighten them down and they lock inside of that little groove that's in there so that it won't slide around, it won't come loose on you. And then these extrusions can be loaded from 3 sides on this kayak. There's also a channel on the bottom, since it's a 4-sided extrusion, and when it's actually sitting on the kayak, it kind of seals it up so we can hide wiring and different things in there like that you don't want just flopping around on the deck of the kayak. So after we figured out the extrusion to be able to put accessories on these kayaks, we had to figure out the seat and the seat mounting options. We knew we wanted to have a high-low seat position, so the trick was getting a seat to mount in the track extrusion and to be able to switch it from the high-low position. So what we've come up with, we have a heavy CNC milled aluminum bracket with a 3/8 stainless steel bolt that runs all the way to here for strength. But we wanted to keep this piece a plastic Delrin material, because Delrin is it's a high quality plastic, it's very durable, but the main part about it is it will not corrode. And when it's inside of the aluminum seat, it will not cause any friction, it's not going to bind, it's not going to scratch, it'll always maneuver like it's supposed to. You're not going to lose that over time. So it gets mounted in this direction, where the aluminum seat goes in here with 4 of them, and then it gets mounted on the side of the track material. And when it sits there, let me switch it around, it sits there like that, that's your reinforcement. So when you're sitting in the seat, it's not putting a whole lot of pressure on the bolt that's in the track, but then it can also be flipped forward or backwards to go to the high-low position. So I want to go ahead and start putting this thing together so you guys can see how it works. All right, so first step is going to be putting the track extrusion on, and your kit will come with 4 track brackets. That's 1 for each switch pad all the way around the kayak from front to back. And then you got 4 sections of track, and then 2 track splices. And the reason why we split the track up into 4 sections is for shipping purposes. If we try to ship a 8 to 10 foot piece of track, you have to pay freight, and it's entirely too expensive, and it wouldn't be an affordable kayak at that point. So we break it down into 4 sections. You lay your first section up. Your track splice is here, and you can see this is 3-sided, not 4-sided like the track itself. And what we do is you put this side towards the inside, because that allows, or if you want to put a motor kit on it, or if you want to run wiring through there in the future, that it's on the inside. So slides right in there, and there's 3 set screws, 1 in each one of these tabs, that holds everything together. Run your track through the loop. Line it up. And then when you tighten it down, it will actually draw everything in straight, as long as they're pushed tightly together. roll it over as needed. Just make sure that when you put it back, that you leave that section there in the middle on the inside. So with your kayak in the package, you'll have a bag of hardware. When you receive the kayak, all the hardware for the kayak itself and the track and the seats, all of that stuff is in one bag. And it's pretty much all the same, except for you have 4 longer T-bolts, and those are for your seat brackets. The shorter T-bolts are to mount the track itself onto the kayak. So you got your track brackets here. There's a single hole side, which goes into the Mighty Mount switch. And then you have these holes here for your bolts that go into the track. So you slide your bolts in like that. You push them tight up against the end of the track and put a low pro wing knob on there. Don't tighten these all the way down just yet. You want to get everything lined up on the bow and the stern of the kayak before we tighten anything down. So now we're going to go to the stern of the kayak, grab the 3 1-inch track bolts, 3 wing knobs, and another track bracket. Slide your bolts in, line those up, just get them started. And then slide this one in back here. Pull the bolt up, and I found that if you pull the bolt up and push this to the side, it holds the bolt up so you can get the wing knob started. Once you get that started, you want to push the bracket all the way back, and then go ahead and tighten these down, make sure everything's straight. And what I do is I finger tighten them as tight as I can get them. So the little tool that Yak Attack has, it works really well with their wing knobs, the different size wing knobs that they have, and it actually works with their lock and load bases as well. I know previous to this tool, we would actually take a pair of channel locks and tighten these things down if we really wanted to wrench them down, but this little tool fits right on top of there. What I do after we get these hand tight, then I come back with this tool and I go a half a turn. But what I like to do, I'm kind of OCD like this, I like to line them all up so they're nice and straight. Everything looks uniform that way. All right, now that I'm finishing up this side, I'll go ahead and do the other side, exactly the same as this side. And then we get the seat brackets, install those, kind of get an idea of where we want the seat at. And then once we have the seat done, then the standard Osprey kit would be put together at that point. But we're actually going to install a motor bracket and foot pegs and foot control steering on this kayak as well. So we're going to install the seat brackets next. And when installing the seat brackets, you'll see there's 2 holes on the bottom side of the bracket. It really doesn't matter which set of holes that you use. Just make sure that you use the same hole, because each bracket gets 1 bolt. Make sure you use the same hole on every bracket. So if it's in the front hole on this side, it needs to be on the front hole on the opposite side. And the same from back to front. That way the seat will function properly going up and down. So first thing you do, just get the track nut or the wing knob started. And then after you get it started, you can push that through, slide that in the track on an angle, and then you can get it in there like that. So don't tighten anything down with this. So you got that started. We'll grab another one. We're going to go front hole on the opposite side, so it's going to face this way. Front hole. Get it started. Same thing. We got. Put it in on an angle. Push the bracket in. Now that the brackets are loose, you should be able to angle them out enough and push out on the track, and you should be able to pop it in. just like that. It's a little awkward because I'm reaching across, but you can just tighten this down a little bit just so you don't have a whole lot of bolts sticking out. And then the same thing on this side. And we're going to install the back ones the same way. We're going to go, it'll be front hole, front hole. So we can go ahead and get the bolts in, get those started. So now that we got the front seat brackets on, we're going to go ahead and install the back ones. Same thing, or an angle, get it in the slot, and then raise your seat up, get that in there, make sure the seat bracket's pushed all the way over, and then we can do this side same way. Angle, get it in there, push it over, and then just kind of angle it up so that everything pops into place. Now that we got all 4 seat brackets in, I can show you how the high-low seat position works. These are made to pivot. They pivot a total of 180 degrees forward or back, but if you want to go to the low position, you flip them forward, and then the seat will drop about 4 inches from the high position. Now, the other option to this is you can actually raise the front of the seat up and keep the back of the seat down, and then you have sort of a reclined position, which is a little bit more comfortable if you like to sit and fish for most of the day. The high position seat makes it a little easier to stand up and down if you like to stand, or if you're in, a lot of current and you feel a little bit safer being all the way down, you can keep the seat all the way down into the low position. So this is what you get when you purchase the Osprey 1436 or the 12936. You get the track from bow to stern. It comes with all the hardware and everything you need to install everything. It's pretty much all the same hardware as far as track bolts and wing knobs. Very simple installation, no special tools needed. And then you get the high-low seat brackets with the seat. The seat can be adjusted high position, low position, or reclined. You can also, set your seat strap so that it lays back a little bit more if you'd like. It comes standard with a switch pad up front with a Mighty Mount switch on there for anchor boom or anything, accessories like that up front. And then, like we talked about previously, it's 4-sided track, so you can run accessories from bow to stern anywhere you want. So next, we're going to go over one of the kits that you can buy for motorizing the kayak or putting a power pole on it, anything like that. So we have it all laid out here. We got foot controls with the foot control plates that also they work as number plates for your registration when you get it registered. If you put a motor on your kayak, you need it registered. Bag of hardware. These are the tools that I'll use for the install. And then we got spectra cord, tubing, and we'll go over what these little stainless steel clips are when we get to the install part. And then we've got the motor plate in the back. You have your standard 4-bolt pattern for power pole or motor in the middle, and then one on either side. We got a bag of hardware here. Might as well go ahead and open that up. We just dump it right out on the deck of the kayak. We're going to install the foot peg plates first. So all of the track bolts in here are 1-inch track bolts, and then the other hardware that you have, these are 5/8, 1/4-20 machine screws that actually hold the foot pegs on. So we're going to go ahead and put the track bolts into the foot peg plates. You'll notice that this side is taller than this side, and that is for the purpose of when we mount these, your pegs are in a downward position, so it's more comfortable when you're pushing, forward and down on the pegs rather than trying to push straight ahead and drag your foot. So we'll put these track bolts in with the taller part at the back. So it's just a 1-inch track bolt and a wing knob. And if you're going to use these for number plates, I recommend mounting them on the outside of the track. If you mount them on the inside, it makes it hard to get a 3-inch number on the outside. So let's get these started. And typically, we slide these all the way forward as far as they'll go. And one thing I do want to go over, whenever adding any track bolts, any accessories to these tracks, when you're tightening these down, you want to hand tighten them, but back it off about a quarter of a turn. And sometimes you'll feel it pop. It's actually the bolt turning and getting into that little groove in there so that it's not on an angle. And if you loosen that up, it usually pops in and goes right into the track right there, so it won't pop loose and vibrate loose on you. So when you're loading into the extrusion that's on the Osprey, you're going to top load like this, go in on an angle, and it drops down inside. When you go to tighten up this nut, it's going to draw everything up, get it up there to where it's snug, and if you look at it, you can see it's not straight in there, and it doesn't sit inside of these little grooves. So you can hand tighten it like that, but what's going to happen is if you go down the road and it gets jarred, it will pop loose. How to combat that, every time you put an accessory on or when you're putting the kayak together, after you get it hand tight, you back it off and you see that it popped and then it fell right into the groove, and then you can tighten it there. Now, I always double check it and back it off a quarter of a turn again, and then if it doesn't jar and it doesn't come loose, then you know you're inside that track, and then you can tighten it down and it's going to stay there. All right, so we're going to stay on this side after the foot peg plate is mounted. We're going to mount the foot pegs on the foot peg plate. You can go ahead and take these apart, just slide it out, and then you use the 5/8 bolts. You put them through the foot peg like that, and I usually do both ends at the same time. After I have those in, I hold them in with my fingers, line them up here with the holes in the plates, push them through, and if you push either upward or downward pressure on there, these bolts won't slide out when you go to try and put the nuts on them. There's that one. The same thing back here. And then take your Allen wrench. And these don't have to be extremely tight. The reason why we use this style of a bolt is because the head is very small on it and it doesn't interfere with the foot peg slides at all. All right, once you have that done, you slide your foot pegs right back in and they can sit right there for now. All right, now that we have the foot pegs installed, we're going to install the motor plate in the back. It's just 4 track bolts and 4 wing knobs. So start out by just putting the track bolt in the track and then lining them up with the plate and then trying to get the wing knob started. So leave those loose and then I can work my way over to the other side and get the track bolts in that side as well. And then get those started. Once everything's started, then we can tighten everything down. So after the motor plate's installed, we do supply hardware for a motor bracket. So if you're running a Torpedo or a Newport vessels, this hardware will be what you want to use for those brackets to attach the motor to the back of the kayak. So here we have the tubing where the spectra cord will run through from the foot pegs to the motor plate. And what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how to install the tubing clips before you install the spectra cord. So the first thing you want to do is take your tubing and you're going to want to run it behind the seat brackets. You're going to come back here. You go through this little, the opening in the track splice right here, and then work your way behind the seat bracket. And then you'll go beyond the strap here. And then it kind of gets stuck in there sometimes. If you just take and spin it from the other end with your hand, it pops out. So you see it got stuck in there, and all I did up in the front with my left hand is spin it, and then it pops out. So you can grab a hold of it. So for now, just leave that lay there. We'll go back to the front, and I'll show you how this works. So this stainless steel clip here is what holds your tubing in the track without moving around. You can put tension on it, that way it's nice and smooth when the spectra cord runs through it. So this actually fits in here in this fashion. So you'll take a 1-inch track bolt, put it in through this way, get your wing knob started, push the bolt back through, and the same as any other accessory or parts on this thing, you just put it in on an angle, push the bracket in, and get it started. Leave it a little loose. And general rule of thumb with these is you want to be 8 inches from the back of the foot peg plate to your nut there, to where your tubing comes out. That gives you the proper angle to go up to here so that it's not putting it on too much of a bind, and it makes your foot controls work a lot smoother. So that's the front piece. We have to put the back piece on, and then you have to mushroom it so it doesn't pull through, and I'll go over all that when we get to the back. After you tightened up the front part of your tubing with the tubing clip up there, in your hardware kit you'll have 2 extra tubing clips that aren't installed yet. And the reason for that is if we mushroom both ends, you will not be able to run it through your track behind your seat bracket to get it up here. So it stops you from having to think way ahead right after you install the track. And it's really easy to mushroom this tube. So the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out the angle where we want the tube to stop. So when your spectra cord comes out, if you're running a power pole, you don't want your spectra cord to come across here, because then it's in the way of your power pole would be in the way of your spectra cord. So you take and get an idea. It's going to run, if I cut it here and install the tubing clip, it's going to miss the power pole. And so we're looking about right there, which typically is about 12 inches from your plate to here. So we'll take this out. You can take a knife, a pair of sharp scissors, anything, cut your tubing. And then you install this. If you install it this way, it won't work properly. You take the tubing clip, put it flat against your tubing, and then all you have to do is angle it so it goes through, and it is a tight fit. It's supposed to be that way. When you mushroom it, there's no chance of it coming out. So I've made this simple little tool that I use for mushrooming the tubing. It's basically a piece of high tensile fence wire that fits right inside the tubing, and then I have a piece of aluminum with a hole the same size as this. That way, once I heat this, I just push down, and it gives it a nice uniform mushroom look. So take your torch, heat it, and I usually just spin it as I'm going. Take this, push down, hold for a second. Once it's cool, you can see you got a nice little round mushroomed end. And then when you pull this clip off, it stops right there, and it won't pull completely off. We're going to go ahead and put the bolt in, but I want to explain that if you don't have these specialty tools or the know-how to make them, you can use all manner of things. This is something that we've started using about probably a year after we started on installs. We just came up with that because it was the best way for us to do it. You can use a screw. You can put the screw down in the hole and heat it, and it'll mushroom it out. You know, if you can find something to fit in the hole so the hole doesn't close up, anything you can use to heat that and then mushroom it down so that the hole doesn't close up is really all you need. It's very simple. The biggest thing is don't overheat it. Don't apply any more heat than you have to. You want it to just be pliable, the tubing to be pliable. That's the main thing. Once the tubing gets hot enough that you can mushroom it down, that's hot enough, and you can always reheat. Don't try and do it all at one time, because you'll melt the whole end off of it, and then you'll just get aggravated, because I've been there. So went ahead and jumped ahead and finished the motor install. We've got a lot of videos on how to tie the knots and attach the foot pegs to the motor and all of that stuff. So you can see the finished product. We've got the spectra cord running through down to the tubing, and then it comes out back here, and it's fairly straight, so it makes it nice and smooth. When you work the pedals, you get full range of motion. And then you can see, if you follow the raise cord, we've come up through the pulley and back down through the loop, And then we've got Yak Attack tie down eyelets there, going straight to a handle that we like to use, which is like a replacement lawnmower pull string handle. It's plastic, it doesn't corrode, it's durable. And then just raise that motor up there, drop it down, stays in the up position. You know, we finished out the install for the customer to make sure that everything fits properly the way that it should. If you're interested in an Osprey, you know, the best way to get it, to order it, is through our website, innovativesportsman.com. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. We're at innovativesportsman@gmail.com. And we will be more than happy to answer any questions, figure out what accessories will work best for you, what's the best way to set up your kayak so that it suits your needs specifically. We're in this to help out the customers the best way we know how, and, you know, just trying to get people out on the water to enjoy fishing.